Alaikum everyone. It is a pleasure to be here today. As we gather to hear for al-Rāzī and his life, we are not just exchanging the information, we are delivering into an exciting opportunity to challenge our thinking and inspire new ideas about al-Rāzī. In the next few minutes, inshallah, we will delve into al-Rāzī's contribution to Islam and the modern uncovering insights that I hope will leave you motivated and empowered. So let's start. Inshallah, we will discuss about the firstly the al-Rāzī's life backgrounds and after that contribution to medicine and contribution to the philosophy and what was the influence in the Islamic world and what was the influence in the modern science of al-Rāzī. Inshallah, we will discuss very in details, inshallah. So in next slides, so Abū Bakr Muhammad bin Zakaria al-Rāzī, commonly known in Western world as al-Rhazes, was a Persian polymath born in Rai, now in Iran, during the Islamic Golden Age. His contribution to various fields, particularly in the medicine, philosophy, have left indelible mark on Islamic and modern sciences. So Al-Razi's work were not only influential in Islamic Golden Age, but also laid foundational stones for future advancement in Western medicine and scientific thought. This presentation will explore Al-Razi's contribution to medicine and philosophy and his influential on both Islamic and modern worlds. So Al-Razi's life background, when we see that the Al-Razi was born a period of significant intellectual activity in the Islamic world, known as the Islamic Golden Age. This era was flourishing of science, philosophy, and medicine, and other discipline often supported by the Abbasid Caliph, who they encouraged learning and his translation of Greek and Persian and also in Indian languages text into the Arabic language. And Al-Razi worked uh, Al-Rajis studied and worked in the various fields including chemistry and alchemy, music and medicine, and eventually becoming the head of the famous hospital in Baghdad. As in slide you can see that the Muqtadri hospital in Baghdad, and he where continued much of his research, and also you can see that he wrote more than 200 books that are very important in their life, and nowadays this is experiencing in the Western worlds. And contributions to medicine, when we see the contribution of al-Razis in the medicine, the we can see that the as here uh, next slide. Kitab al-Hawi, comprehensive book, which is the a book which written in medicine, the al-Hawi Kitab, this 20-volume medical encyclopedia in various civilizations, Greek, Persian, and Indian. All civilizations, the practices are included in this book, and it served as the standard medical reference in Europe. And this book was translated into Latin. The al-Hadith is perhaps best known for his the expensive book work in the medicine, Al-Hawi. It's a famous book, Kitab al-Hawi. and was the 20-volume medical encyclopedia, and it's compiled medical knowledge of various ancient civilizations. As I mentioned, the Greek, Persian, and Indian medical practices, and this work served as the standard medical text in both Islamic and in Europe, and where I was translated into Latin in the 12th century. It's known as the continents, in the name of the continents. This work was translated in 12th century, and in the other slide, the pioneering clinical practices, how the al-Rāzīs worked on this Kitab fil Jadri wal Hasba, and al-Kitab fil Jadri wal Hasba. It he explained he was a keen observer and the practitioner, known as the clinical experiences. He was one of his first to make and to clear the distinction between smallpox and measles, and two diseases that often were confused in this time. Okay, how can we differentiate between these two illness, and the smallpox and measles, to how we can treat from the, how can we care to save our life. So he discussed in this book the Kitab fil Jadri wal Hasba, and his detailed description of the symptom of each diseases and their differences were crucial in field of the epidemiology and helped in the proper diagnosis and treatment of these illness. And in the next slide, we can see how the Muslim physicians after al-Rāzī, the Ali ibn Abbas al-Majusi, and his work were the Kamal Sina al-Tibya, and Ibn Sina, the book of al-Kanuni fi Tib, Canon of Medicine, Ibn Zuhair, the book of entitled is the Tafsir al-Mudawati wal-Tadbir, and other the Ibn Nafis, the book of al-Muzaz fi Tib, and Dawood al-Antaki, who's the تدريكات داود تدريكات داود تدريكات أولي الباب والجميل للعجب والأجوب. This title of his book, and Madian al-Kausini, his book was the Kamus Atiba wal-Namus al-Aliba. There is more there are more and physicians after the al-Rāzīs who worked in the medical fields, and other is pharmacy and chemistry. In the field of the pharmacy and chemistry, he al-Rāzī's work was the Kitab al-Asrar. His Kitab al-Asrar is an addition to his medical work, the Kitab al-Asrar, the outlined method of the distillation and calcination of the preparation of the various chemical substances is created with the discovery of the sulfuric acid and ethanol, and substances that are the fundamental of the modern chemistry and the industry of his methods and pharmacy, particularly in the preparation of medical compounds, like the groundwork of the modern pharmacology. The modern pharmacy, his work was very important in this field, in chemistry and pharmacy, and as I have mentioned, his modern chemistry was discovered sulfuric acid and ethanol in this field. And the ethical consideration in medicine, how the al-Rāzīs were the ethically and considered in medicine, his work was the al-Ruhani, the spiritual physics of Rhazes. And in this is book, these were written by the John Murray Albanian Street, these were published in London. By it is translated from the Arabic by the author J. Al-Arberi. To Alberi is Tiburuhani al-Rāzī, who wrote extensively on the medical ethics, comprehending the importance of the, treating patients with the comparison and humility. His book At-Tiburuhani delved into the psychological and emotional aspect of the patient care, advocating the moral and integrity of the physician. He believed that a good physician should not only be the knowledgeable but also ethical, treating patient regardless of their social status or ability to pay, to how it was the ethically he considered to their patients, in how we care and how we can support our patients in any other situation. This is mentioned in this book, in this spiritual piece of the Rhazes, the At-Tibur ar-Ruhani. And in other slides we can see in the, yeah, the contribution to the philosophy, how he's contributed in the philosophical world, how al-Razi's contribution in the philosophy. The al-Razi was the philosopher of the significant repute, known for his the rationalist approach. Unlikely many of his contemporaries who shout to the council, the religion, and the philosophy, Al-Razi advocated for the often advocated for the more secular approach to knowledge. He believed in the power of reason. He believed in power of reason and empirical evidence, often criticizing the religious dogma when it conflicted with the rational thought. His works in the philosophy, particularly Kitabul Ilm al-Ilahi, the book of divine science, the Kitabul Ilm al-Ilahi, reflect his belief in the inventions, how it was worked in the rationalism. He argued for the understanding the universe through the natural laws in the Kitabul Ilm al-Ilahi, how the natural laws are the developing our the earth and our environment, and he emphasized the reason and empirical evolution of the religious dogma. So in the next, the critique of the prophethood and revelation, critique of the prophethood and revelation. uh, he uh, One of the Allah's most controversial philosophical position was his critique of religious prophet Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam, and concept of revelation and other the prophets who came in the world. He argued that the reason should be a primary guide for the human behavior, and in any cases, all these are the particularly are based on uh, concept of human behavior, not any other things. The guide for the human behavior, not religious teaching. Religious teaching is the aftermath, but the firstly which we considered is the human behavior in the view of the al-Rāzī, and this position was highly contentious and faced the significant opposition from the religious scholars of this time. And despite this, his work laid the foundation for later Islamic philosopher who shout to the balance reason with faith. So there are many questions he raised about the prophethood and revelation. and divine revelation of and he advocated for the reason as the guide for the human behavior, how the human behavior work without any religion. And the other he when we philosophical we can see that in philosophy the humanism and ethics, how the humanism works and ethics works in the philosophy of the al-Rāzī, and his books are the falsafa to Abū Bakr al-Rāzī, الرؤية الجديد يعني in the new views of the falsafa of Abū Bakr al-Rāzī. He believed in the dignity of all humans and the importance of the ethical conduct, and he advocated for just governance focused on the welfare of the people. Uh, this writing is deeply concerned for ethics and human condition, as he believed in the inherent dignity of human beings and the importance of the ethical conduct in both personal and professional life. His humanistic approach was evidenced in the medical ethics and his belief that all individuals and regardless of the social or economic status should be treated by the respect and care. And influence on the Islamic world in the how the al-Rāzīs influence has worked on the Islamic world. So firstly, we can see the educational impact and medical practices and philosophical legacy. The three in the three views in the three types I have divided the influence of the Islamic world in by the al-Rāzī. This the educational impact, how the education was more important. The al-Rāzī's work was only were widely studied in the Islamic world, where he were integrated into the crucial of the medical schools and madrasa, and his emphasis on the empirical observation. We can the educational impact was his emphasizing on the empirical observation and rational analysis, which was influenced generation of scholars not just in the medicine but also in other scientific disciplines. In the his works were translated into several languages I have mentioned in the before, and making them associable to the broader audience and ensuring their the lasting impact. This is the educational impact in the Islamic world. And the medical practices, when we can see the medical practices in the in the Islamic world, the al-Rāzī's clinical practices and medical writings were considered authoritative and for centuries. His approach to diagnosis and treatment and patient care was adopted by the physicians across the Muslim world, and the hospital in Baghdad and other Islamic cities, which were among the most advanced. As now we can I have seen in other countries and other they are they developed in their medical field, but this time in the al-Rāzī's time, the hospital of Baghdad and other Islamic cities were more among most advanced in the world at time, were heavily influenced by his methods of the medical practice and other the philosophical legacy. We can when we uh, thought about the philosophical legacy, the al-Rāzī's philosophical ideas, particularly his emphasis on the reason and critique of the religious orthodoxy. He critiques the religions and he had a more complex legacy in Islamic world. While his ideas were not universally accepted, they did contribute to the broader intellectual debates of the time, influencing other thinkers who shout to the council reason with faith. His works represent an early form of the Islamic rationalism that would later be echoed in works of the philosophers like Ibn Rushd, as we know the Averroes, Ibn Rushd and Ibn Sina, and now as we known as the Avicenna. So these two philosophers who later came after the al-Rāzīs, and he critically who believed in the religious faiths also. And the other slide of this as the influence on the modern world, how the al-Rāzī worked on the modern world, I divided this the Renaissance and beyond. And second is the foundation for modern science. So Renaissance, what the Renaissance and it's beyond. Rhazes was particular in the medicine, where the translation into Latin and became the influential in medieval Europe, as I mentioned this. And this medical text were the standard reference in European universities. Today is the very important part of this. These books they are translated in English and other languages, which are the working on the Europe, and his contribution to development of the medical education in the West. The Renaissance, a period of the renewed interest in the classical knowledge, saw the resurgence in studying the al-Rāzī's work, which were seen as a bridge between the ancient Greek and the modern practices. How he made a bridge between the ancient period and the modern era. How he make a bridge between them. And so the foundation for the modern science, how he was the a moderation or moderator of the modern science. He method and the principle established by the al-Rāzī, such as the clinical observation and empirical research and ethical medical practices, have continued to be foundational in modern medicine. His contribution between the smallpox and measles is the early example of the kind of differential diagnosis that is the central to modern clinical practice. His approach to patient care, the emphasizing ethics and comparisons, remains a core principle in the medical ethics study. So these were the foundation of the modern medicines and in the modern science. And as in the end, in short, we can say that the al-Rāzī was a towering figure in both the Islamic Golden Age and the border history, uh, in the border history of the science and philosophy. His contribution to medicine, particularly his emphasis on the empirical observation, clinical practice, and medical ethics, have a lasting impact on both Islamic and Western world. His philosophical writings, while controversial, and contributed to the intellectual debates of his time and laid the groundwork for the future discussion on the relationship between reason and faith in the modern world. Al-Razi's legacy contribution to be felt in the fields of the medicine, pharmacy, and philosophy, where his ideas remain relevant and influential. Uh, this my presentation to conclude here. Thank you for this listening, and thank you very much.